In this video, I'm going to show you about my progress so far, some decisions I'm making, some changes I'm making to my level to make it a better experience, the art asset review that I've done to have a look at what we've got so far, and a little bit about how I'm tackling this challenge of having my player come down the slope. So it's a midway conversation about where I'm at with creating my level. So it's not long since I last spoke to you guys, and already I've found a whole bunch of things that I need to address and think about and talk about. I've had an art review with Mikey, who's creating all of our assets, and I've had a look at my level as I've started to block it out. There's a few things that I'm thinking, uh-oh, this is not going to work, or I'd like to change that, or it could be better. You can see I've put a big old bridge. I wanted a bigger bridge going across here, so that when we've got the camera as we're running across our bridge, Mikey and I were having a bit of a look at this, there's a great opportunity to have more cool stuff down here. We can put assets and objects and have a little bit of a cool art moment as you run across the bridge. If it's a little bridge, you're like, blump, and then you're over. But if we have depressions, so if we dip down here, then we can place something in there. I'm going to use a house for now, but I was going to say, obviously, we wouldn't put a house in there. Then I thought, you know what, maybe we would put a house in there. Who knows? So as we're coming across the bridge, we get a pretty good view. You can see a bunch of it down below, and you can see the top of it as a house. But when I'm running around in front of the houses over in the village, then they're more getting in the way, and we're just seeing the rooftops. So let me show you that. So it's a different perspective, and it's harder for us to present the front side of something when we're running to it close in the foreground like that. So that's part of the reason why we're looking now for places where we can have drop downs, so we can have, look at all that room in there. Because the ground plane is lower, or the terrain is lower, we can place things in the water. Similar here, we can place it there instead of it taking up the entire big bunch of the screen as it would be. Okay, so that's the first thing. Another thing, and you know what I'll do, I will take my house out of the water. There we go, just undoing that. The other thing I'll show you guys that I was doing just now was having a look at how are these assets. And Mikey's been doing some great work. He's advanced from this. I like this, it doesn't cut me off. But what I'm not digging is, if you look here, it's just a whole bunch of roof. And Mikey and the guys that are helping him have worked on the next iteration of that, and they've got some color in there. So on the right here, this is me taking a screenshot. On the right is how it looks in one of the test builds we're working on at the moment, and it's just a whole bunch of red, just a big roof. So I was saying to Mikey, hey, wouldn't it be cool if we can have, and this is my handiwork over here. How good's that, huh? That's a masterpiece. You can see why I am not the artist on the team. But I just got the old stylus and just got in there in Photoshop. And you guys can do this in Paint, or you can do it in whatever your heart desires. You can do it in GIMP if you're wanting a free program. And basically I just painted up there and said, hey, what if we make more of the wall and less of the roof? And then can you squash the roof a little bit? Because I don't really want the roof to be the star of the show. So that was part of the feedback. And that's how I was giving the feedback. I wanted to show you guys so you get a window into when you're working with an external artist or someone on your team, or even if it's yourself and you're making notes, then this is one way you can do it. Just jump in to any sort of program, make some notes in there, scroll it around, arrows. I'd love to see more of this crooked action. It does increase the size of the assets a little bit, and a little bit more wonky windows and so on. That was the feedback I was giving to Mikey. We also had a really interesting thing happen during our art review, and I recorded that for you guys. Let's have a look at that now. So we're in the middle of an art review. Mikey and I were having a look at the assets. It's awesome, and Mikey has discovered a really cool animation for his player. Mikey, I'm about to click to make him move. Do you want to talk us through what he's doing?
Well, he's a bit of a panicked player. I think his mesh went on backwards. Let's see him in action.
And what sound effect does he make?
Something like that, yes.
I think that is funny as hell.
I can just see him running past the main character at some point going, run away!
Help, help! So anyway, this is how you discover awesome things in your game. And look at all these cool assets we're bringing in. There's a gate, clunk. And although we can probably just go around the side, but no need to go in the front door. So I think this character's funny as hell. Maybe this is going to be our main character. What do you reckon?
Well, it's made us both chuckle, hasn't it?
That's the goal. That's the criteria. He makes us laugh. I wonder if he'll still be laughing at this guy after another 5 or 10 hours. Probably. That is funny as heck. Anyway, wanted to show you guys our art review and show you some of the cool stuff that we've got going on at the moment. And now back to my scene. Some other things I've been looking at in here. Just up at the top, when we have the player up here, I like the amount that I'm seeing when I run around this corner. I see the village. The camera's probably a little bit more like that. I see some of this water in here now, and I see the bridge, which I'm really happy about. I'm not showing the castle, so there's a little bit of surprise, a little bit of where do I go? The player saying, I saw a bridge that looked like it would have led to the castle. So I like that. A little bit of foreshadowing there. What I don't like, though, let me show you what's not working, what I need to do some adjustments on. So when I run across the bridge, I like it, it's cool. I could probably make that bridge a little bit longer, have some enemies on it, have a little bit of a fight, I'm thinking. When I come here, blunk. How uninspiring is that? What a terrible castle reveal. So, we can lower it. That's part of the problem is the camera getting chopped off, but part of it is I didn't get to see this cool castle. So either we need to change how our asset is, which Mikey plans to have a much lower castle. This is a way too high. Have it busted up so we can actually get inside. It's supposed to be a ruin of a castle. But also, when I first enter, this is me thinking about the aesthetic for the player, the experience for the player, the wowness. When they come around, I want him to come from south. So I'm calling bottom of the screen south, so I can run up towards it and see it and get a reveal. So that means I need to, you guys are welcome to do what your heart desires. I need to have my entry to the castle come in from down below, which is going to require a little bit of, I'm going to shift the terrain, probably make the terrain up over here a bit more, up over this direction. So the whole castle's up more that way. So then I'm just going to paint the path for you guys so you see what I'm talking about. So we come down this way. That's probably a little bit too big for my painting the path. So we can come a little bit more down this way and then curl around and then have a bridge come up. Maybe this is the bridge onto land, and then we run back up that way towards the castle, and then the castle can be further, maybe a little like that, maybe somewhere up this way. So let's try that. We'll pretend that I did run across that dirt patch there. Actually, let's do this properly. No pretending. We'll do this realsies. I'm going to, holding down shift, I'm just going to paint myself, and we'll have to figure out where exactly we put the bridge in this new setup. A lot of what I'm really looking for at the moment is how long is too far to run. We don't want the player to get bored, be running along and thinking, oh my goodness, taking forever. I like this. If we had some rails down here, something preventing the player, we get a little bit of a sneak of what's going on. So a little bit of a sneak, looking at it. Maybe you have to come all the way down to here because there's some debris, something fallen over, something cool. And then I can run up towards the castle, and maybe we'll have the castle a little bit further down this way so you don't have to run quite so far. Or maybe this now is on the castle. And then we can get a much cleaner perspective for how we do that fight and how we have our big boss battle. I think that's going to be really nice. And if we have our bridge somewhere around here, when we do our nice shot up the top here, I think it's still going to be readable and still going to look pretty nice from up top there. Okay, so I wanted to show you guys my logic there and what I'm looking for and the conversation I'm having. So conversation in terms of art, I need to change that asset. I need to move this around, not to be fixed to your flow here. This is your starting point, or this is my starting point. And as you go, you need to be constantly saying, how does this work? Is this too far? Is it making sense? Is it going to enhance our experience? I've got some funny stuff that I want to have happen down here, and then maybe some funny stuff, because our game is funny. Your game might be serious or scary or crazy, so you might have some crazy, scary stuff down here to show, and all spooky. And then when you run along here, you might have a reveal of the boss being, whoa, so you get at least 3 or 4 seconds where you get to see the boss before you enter combat. I think that'd be a really nice way to show it. Okay, the other thing, and you can see my circle here, I'm just starting to map out on the ground where I want to have some of my combat moments, where I want to have, you know, a moment here when I come down the ramp. I'm thinking of pushing the player up here and coming in. So rather than having them emerge in my previous plan down here, and then they might go up here and have a fight, or they might go down the right to the castle. I'm going to make it a little bit more. You have to come down to the left and come around through the town square, through the village green. Give us a chance to have some really nice objects, background over here. Perhaps get you up close to the river, see the river, scoot back in, and then come down along there. So that's what I'm thinking now in terms of that flow. And I haven't put any enemies in yet. I just wanted to talk through the placement, but soon we need to have some enemies in there to test the pacing and the distance. And I'm super excited to tell you guys that Ben has got lots and lots and lots of great stuff that he's been creating in his development build, testing things out, and soon he's going to put it into this proper build and teach you guys how it all works. Now what I'm doing over here is just getting some ramps, and basically I just took my cube, flattened cube over here that I had for my bridge, brought it over here to see what level of ramp rotation is okay for my player to go up. We did some of this in the sandbox. We didn't get to the point where we said, here is the rule. So I'm going with an angle of 10% rotation on the Z axis there. I'm going to grab my player and we'll drag him over yonder. See how this feels in terms of ramp height going up here. Okay, whoop, oh crikey. There we go. Oh boy. Try again. Okay, fail. So you can see a little bit of, that's really good to note. Oh, that's, goodness me, this is, wow. Okay, so we've learned our first thing, which that is too close to have an overhang. Push that back there a little bit. And we'll pull it out this way a little bit so we can test it out. There we go. These are good things to learn about how we're setting up our level. Run, 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 run. This is really good for the foreground. It's some interesting. We can have little shrubs in there. Have some shrubberies as you run past. That slope feels pretty good, huh? There's no weird character animation bubbling. It doesn't need to be much steeper than that. We'd need to test out combat at some point. 10% feels pretty good. Let's see what happens if we make it even more. If we make it, say, 15%. 15 or 15 Z units. Pretty sure that's, what have I done here? 15, there we go. Okay. Enter and click and all those good things. Okay. Now, here we go. Let's, with a 15 rotation. It's still feeling okay. I wouldn't want to have combat on here. I think that could cause some issues. And there's a little bit of weird bounciness going on. I would only do 15 as a very short kind of ramp. I wouldn't make it all this distance. If you're going down some quick stairs, you're pretty sure there wasn't going to be combat there. So we'll say up to 15. I did like how 10 felt for this particular entry into town. I haven't tested out yet. Is this going to be boring as heck running all the way down here? I do want to have a moment somewhere down the ramp. I need to come from this side and head down, probably down that way. I'm going to have to figure that out because it seems like I've got the ramp set up so you want to start from over the right here when we actually want to start from the left, and I want to have you end up here. So there's a little bit of managing that going from this side, might be down there, a little bit of a zigzag and down to the bottom. There are some tools that allow you to do slopes with your terrain. There's some paid tools, and as a general philosophy, we're not showing you guys much in the way of paid tools in this course. We want to try to do this all free, and we also try to stay away from free tools that we might not know if they're going to be around in, say, a year's time. We want to show you guys something that no matter when you come back and watch these videos, it's still going to be relevant. So there are some tools out there. There's also some techniques. I decided for now to start with doing ramps, and then we'll see how that feels with ramps and how we kind of mush the terrain around it. I might just do ramps to save ourselves time and difficulty, but what we could do, there's some other techniques. We can raise this up. For example, we can do some steps. So if I do a step here to 102, and then I can do a step here to 104, for example, it's probably going to be a little bit too steep. Let me just shift, select that. So like this, and then we can use, we haven't talked much about the smooth height tool, make it nice and big, and then when I do that, see how it smooths out between those 2 points, and it makes it nice and smooth rampish. So we can do that over here in terms of getting, we want to have something that big, in terms of getting some smoothness on our terrain. But for now, I'm just going to do it as a ramp and see how that goes and feels. The last thing I want to show you guys is we're now going to introduce a setup and standards file. And the setup and standards file is a way for us to communicate to you through our builds, because you can access any stage of our build. Every single lecture corresponds to a state of the build, and Ben's going to take a bunch of time to show you more about our Git repository and how you use that and how you can set yourself up. For now, I just want to introduce you to the fact that we're going to have a file that I'm going to put in there right now, which is called, let me get from my imports and exports folder, which is called setup and standards, that I'll zip up for you so you can grab. I'm going to put it right in the root level of our assets folder. It's, I'm importing that, so yes, import the whole thing. Now it's a text file, and because it's a text file, we can just click on it and read it in the inspector, which is lovely. And in here, we've got things such as, I talked to you before about the terrain. We're starting at -100 so that we can flatten it up to the 0 level at +100. I'll bring it up there. So there's a few things in here we're going to do. And one of the things that I can put in here, if I edit my text file, which I can do straight in MonoDevelop, I can add something in here, is, okay, so this is the convention when using, ##, and then we'll talk about ramp angles, accidentally spelled angels, ramp angles, maximum ramp Z, I was going to say Z score, Z value, it's not a score, is it? Z value equals 15 for a longer ramp using 10. Instead of saying using, let's say equals. So there's a little bit of funky highlighting, but it's a text file, so don't worry, this is not going to go and compile and build something crazy. So I've just got a note in there, and there's other notes for you guys that you can read. We'll put things in there that are useful. We can have all these things in our design documents and tech documents and art documents, but anything that belongs right next to where you're doing it in the build, we figured we'd put it right in there so that it's front and center and you've got it nice and handy. Which brings me to your challenge. While I'm still working on my level and while you're working on your level and iterating on that and putting more effort into it, I'd like you to add the setup and standards file, create or import. So you can create your own text file. You don't have to use ours if you don't want. If you are following our approach pretty closely, then import ours. And I'd like you to update it with at least one of your own guidelines, or guideline, I guess, if it's only one. So update it with one, get into that habit of writing things down. This is fantastic if you're working with other people on your team, or in the future you might be asking an artist to help out or a designer to help out. But for now, this is for you to remember what it is that you've decided about specific things. Continue on with your level, continue tweaking it. I'm going to keep working on my level, and in the next video, I'll show you some more progress on my level and a little bit of about how I've been going about doing it.